Good evening, one and all the students, all the parents, all the tourism entertainers, all management people in terms of tourism and hospitality. On behalf of my group of colleges, Asia Pacific group of colleges affiliated to Gujarat Technological University, our fellow colleagues, academic staff, non-teaching staff, our beloved management people, I would like to invite today one of the tourism curator of India, beloved revered uh, Honorable Zutshi sir, known for his academic curation during his tenure. He has served as Secretary to Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. I really didn't get Indian administrative service people are so much contributed for human resources, giving importance to skilling, giving importance to information, technology, techno savviness, creation new opportunities in terms of teachers, in terms of administrator, in terms of a social activist, in terms of a person who is really interested to create new heights in India in terms of revenue generation, in terms of employment, developing the employment opportunity. Here we have Hon'able Manoj sir, Secretary, Ministry of Culture, Government of India, Ministry of Tourism, Government of Rajasthan. He has been served as an Secretary, Civil Aviation Ministry, Government of Rajasthan. He has been associate and served many number of government portfolio. He's been a member in many board of studies, honorary member, various tourism committee. He has been served as the chief in National Council for Hotel Management, Catering Technology. He has been associated a long-term association with Indian Institute of Travel and Tourism Management. He created really a benchmark for the future of tourism and hospitality as students to really in one life people can do many things if they have certain kind of vision. A visionary leader, one of the elder academic leader I can say, administrator I can say. I would really feel proud today sir that you give at least some time to recreate the interest of our tourism. During your tenure sir, you have been traveled and being association in several capacity in various nations like United States of America, United Kingdom, UK, Germany, France, Australia, Azerbaijan, Italy, Netherlands, Australia, Spain, Jamaica, Georgia, Kyrgyzstan, China, Hong Kong, Turkey, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Japan, Bangladesh, and many more. It is the brief profile is really taking a session to nurture, but always, sir, we found really honored that India is a country when people are creating the new era, new benchmarks. You are one of them. I have a great respect, sir. I would again thank you for putting us yes always and availing for our students. Sir, you have many experiences. Serve as an administrator in various state governments and central government organization and ministerial staff in several positions, which will be a real challenge for you as you found for promoting tourism related product in India.
Professor V.P. Prakash Sahu, first of all, let me thank Asia Pacific Institute of Management and thank you personally for having invited me.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm actually very pleased to be with you and through you to this talk show to be with all your bright students of your institution. Uh, and thanks for the detailed introduction that you have given about me. So it's a good opportunity for me to share my experiences, my knowledge. And the basic idea and aim, as you have also mentioned, is to motivate your students. Not just in terms of uh, giving them those positive notes about the tourism and travel industry, but also how to go ahead in life, to develop knowledge, to develop expertise, to develop personality, which will take them to greater heights. Coming to your question, well, yes, when I joined Secretary Tourism in India, Government of India, uh, as most of the nations have quite a few challenges before them, India also had lots of challenges. And some of the challenges which I confronted at that point of time is, first of all, the accessibility, the ease of access was one of the main issues, especially with regard to international tourist arrivals. Now, obviously, with the system of foreigners coming into India is a very complex one, very time consuming, very harassing, and not a simplified one. Nobody would like to go to a country where there is no ease of access. Now, when I say ease of access, specifically, the visa regime used to be very complex.
Right.
And it was very difficult for the travelers from all over the world to travel into India with the traditional visa. Now, I was lucky that during my tenure, the e-visas, e-tourist visa regime came, and the government, of course, the government already had in mind how to, make the e-visa regime more liberalized and more flexible. But I was lucky that I was there at the time. And within a span of 1.5 to 2 years, between 2014 it started, November, and within 2 years, we had 166 countries having the facility. Now, this is something very important because whatever infrastructure you may develop in your country, unless people are able to come over and reach your country, I mean, there can be no tourism. So this is the first challenge that I found and we were able to resolve. In fact, I even remember that initially when I joined, like the travel trade people, they all meet the new secretary. And one of the issues was that the visa regime is not so tourist friendly. Now, it was not just that e-tourist visa was brought in, there were also many reforms which were done. I will talk about it later on. Second point I would like to mention, the challenge is the connectivity. Now, I'm talking of connectivity on air, connectivity on rail, connectivity on road, and of course, connectivity by sea as well. Now, coming to the international tourist arrivals, obviously, almost 90% of the people come by air. So the air connectivity issue was another major hurdle, and the seat capacity of all the airlines combined together was not as much as the potential that India has. If we want to increase from 10 million to 20 million, say for example, in the next few years, obviously you need that much of seat capacity in the aircrafts. You need to have so many more airlines or so many more aircrafts coming into India. So this connectivity issue, increasing the air connectivity base, that is another challenge. And that challenge remains even now. Now, thirdly, which is the most important, I would say, challenge or maybe something that India has been lacking was the tourism infrastructure. Now, tourism infrastructure means that when you go to a destination, you do not have those kinds of facilities Even there are small facilities which every traveler and tourist going to a destination would like to have. I would in brief talk about certain major things like, for example, accommodation. India still has a paucity of accommodation, especially in the budget category in the country. And there is a gap of almost 2 lakh rooms, combinedly for the country. Now, this has not been plugged so much. Now, COVID has come in between. So the pace of investments into hospitality and making of accommodation, which had been going very well, has slightly got a setback. But the basic point remains is that we need to have good accommodation in
Right.
order to attract not just the foreign travelers, but also the upper middle class travelers into various destinations. For example, and it's not just the number that matters, it is the spatial distribution of the accommodation. For example, if you go to Gaya, Bodh Gaya. Now, Bodh Gaya is a place which is a, hub for Buddhist tourism.
Buddhist.
But if you start looking for some accommodation, a good accommodation, there is hardly any.
Right.
Same applies to a place called Varanasi.
Mhm.
Varanasi also, I mean, I don't have to introduce Varanasi because it is one of the most attractive destinations. But if you start searching for good hotels, you will not find. So
Right.
what I'm trying to say is that this kind of infrastructure is another challenge which we are still facing. Uh, Apart from other, I mean, smaller infrastructure will include restaurants, cafeteria, good guides, professional certified guides, transportation. So basically, we have been able to create a good airport infrastructure. We have been able to bring the foreigners into India to a world-class infrastructure. But when you come out of T3 or T2 in Bombay, you are then left with not so good infrastructure, and that kind of gap existed and which still exists thanks to Uber, Ola, other transportation services. But still, from airport to the destinations, from destinations to the airports, wherever the tourist goes around, now that infrastructure is not a world-class infrastructure, which all of us have to develop. How we had done this, I would speak later on when you maybe ask a question with regard to what all has been done by the government
Well said,
so
sir.
far.
Well said, sir. Good.
Then another major challenge that India faces, and we felt because I used to go to many countries and we used to have discussions everywhere. Health and hygiene and cleanliness.
Right.
This is one issue which has been flagged by everyone, not just within India but also abroad. So this is another. I'll be slightly brief because maybe the time will be short when we answer other questions as well. Nextly is about something about safety and security. It may not be because we are actually unsafe. It is not because there is no security of the travelers traveling, especially the foreign travelers. But basically, the challenge is that the perception about India that it is not a safe destination for, say, for example, women travelers to come. That kind of perception is also one of the inhibitors, or maybe it is creating issues and creating problems for people traveling from abroad. And another thing which I would like to mention is that there is a travel and tourism competitive index. Uh, it's a report which is released by World Economic Forum every 2 years. 2019 is the latest report. Now they have identified out of 14 pillars, they have assessed which pillar we are strong in. They have compared 136 economies, which are basically tourism countries, and they have assigned marking for each of them, or each of the 14 pillars for each of the countries. Now, some of the areas where India lags behind, one I have already mentioned, health and hygiene. Another is safety and security. When I say safety and security, it is primarily from the other kind of safety, not the health safety. I mean, this COVID thing is a different thing altogether. I mean the safety of your law and order and all kinds of crimes and all happening, or harassment, to the travelers. And also the ICT, that is Information and Communication Technology
Technology.
network, we are still not very good.
Mm.
If you want to go beyond the urban spaces, then maybe today we are talking of digital technology. Today we are talking of virtual realities and augmented realities in this light of the COVID crisis. But the point is that how would you reach the people where there is no internet? So this also remains as one of the issues. And let me also mention that most of our destinations, they are situated in non-urban areas. If
Right.
you take a look at all the World Heritage sites that we have in India, you will find them in either semi-urban or in village area, remote area, the forts. You know, maybe some of the destinations like Delhi, Agra may have it in the urban localities, but most of the World Heritage sites you have. So you need connectivity, both in terms of the physical connectivity by road, last mile connectivity up to the destination, Wi-Fi connectivity, internet connectivity, in order to make the whole thing digitally strong. So, and last but not the least, I mean, this is my own thinking, that the biggest challenge that India is that the incredible India has a problem of plenty. When I say a problem of plenty means India has got so many destinations, has got so much to offer
Mm.
to everyone in the world, that it becomes difficult to market and promote all products in one go, and also look after each and every product and destination.
Right.
Today, ASI is also able to manage only a limited number of destinations, not all. So my point is, when you have to handle so many destinations together, you have to provide infrastructure, you have to provide road connectivity, you have to provide airports to that destinations. And for instance, Hampi is one of the World Heritage sites.
Right.
Now that place does not have an airport. I'm just giving an example. So basically, when we have so many things to visit, you have the beaches, you have the mountains, you
Mm.
have the hills, you have deserts. If you compare with any other country, now Dubai, for an example, Dubai will focus only on desert related issues.
Desert
They
related.
will everything that Singapore is just such a small place. Thailand is also not very big. I mean, they can talk about the waters and something else. But when you talk about India, you have to handle all the themes, all the verticals, and all the segments, and properly. Because if somebody has to go to a particular destination, when he goes to beaches, you have hundreds of beaches all along the 7,500-kilometer coastline. So these are some of the challenges which India faces today, even now, and there have been attempts. The government is working, the industry is working towards all this, which maybe I will speak a bit later. So, to my mind, these are the challenges which we confronted. Some of the issues have been already addressed, like I mentioned, e-visa, but there are many issues which still need to be addressed.
During your tenure as a secretary in Ministry of Tourism, Government of India, it's getting remarkable advancement in terms of revenue generation and also creating several n number of employment opportunity. So what you implement and you think if you able or anyone can able to implement those initiatives before some years or before 10, 15 years or 20 years, uh, how it will nourish in more advanced way, or we can get the
Well,
more remarkable outcome.
I've got your point. You see, there are many initiatives, as every secretary who sits on that chair would certainly do. As I mentioned, the challenges which the industry was facing, which the government in the ministry we were facing, we try to address those challenges. And some of those issues which are either being taken forward or maybe needs to be taken forward, I would like to highlight some of them. Now, first and foremost is that we have a national tourism policy dated back to 2000. Now, we are in 2020.
Mm.
18 years have passed. The world has changed. Tourism is such a dynamic sector that, every few days, every few months, few weeks, the buying behavior, the consumer behavior changes, new destinations come up. It's a ever changing, very dynamic sector. So the policy has to match with what is happening on the ground.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, when I came in 2015, there was this draft new tourism policy, national new tourism policy of 2015.
Right.
That is the year when I joined. And we tried to take it forward.
Mm.
We did a lot of spade work, but then for some reason or the other, it could not see the light of the day. So my first thing that I would like to mention, and fortunately, the government just about uh, a week or 2 weeks ago, they have drafted or rather redrafted
Mm.
the national tourism policy because that did not see the light.
Mm.
That has been further updated, amended, and has been circulated in the industry as a national tourism policy draft 2020. I have
Right.
gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful document. So my first thing that I would like things to go forward and to get moving is that the new national tourism policy should come out as early as possible. The process is going on. The ministry, the honorable minister himself had invited associations and other people to give comments. But my basic point is the earlier the better. In the light of COVID, all the more, because we are now fraught with new challenges. And if
Right.
we don't tweak our policy, if you don't revisit our policies and make it in tune with
Mm.
what is the ground reality in the light of new normal, then we will not be able to do justice. So I'm glad that Government of India, Ministry of Tourism has come out with a draft, and I hope that very soon it will come out. The second thing, which again I'm repeating about the visa. Now this e-tourist visa, as I've said, has been a game changer. 166 countries. I would wish that more and more countries, whichever country is left, that should also be brought under the e-visa regime. Now there may be some uh, international relations issue between the two countries. I'm not saying that, but whatever countries are left over and where India and that particular country can reciprocate with each other, there I think we must have the e-tourist visa regime there as well.
Right.
Also, as I said, there have been many reforms. Now, those reforms have been that initially it used to be only single entry. Now, in case of e-tourist visa, it is double entry. But in case of e-medical visa, it is multiple entry, which is required also. In e-business also, it is double entry. Now, what I would like to say is that not only this e-tourist visa, this entry should be made multiple entry even for the tourist visa. Now, India, when people come to India, they come on a long haul. And when they come to India, they also have Nepal in mind, they have Sri Lanka in mind, they have some Southeast Asian countries also in mind. So they may make India as a hub and then go over to someplace and come back. So just having double entry may not be a good idea, and I would rather pitch for going for multiple entry even in case of e-tourist visa. Now, similarly, the validity of the e-visa is for about 60 days. Now, that could also be increased. That is another point. Thirdly, today the countries are attracting, the travelers. I'm talking of pre-COVID times with, giving even free visa and no visa. So lately, the Southeast Asian countries, you see Thailand, you see some more countries, Indonesia, they have more flexible and more liberal e-visa regime than us. So now it is time that, of course, the COVID health safety threat, of course, has to be addressed. But sooner or later, as things become normal, India must also make its visa regime more flexible. Either it could be no visa with border countries at least, some of the border countries, and even the fees of the visa should be reduced in order to make ourselves competitive with the neighboring states. Now, third point is about, just like the national tourism policy is on the cards, I would also pitch in for the states, all the state governments. They have their tourism policies. Some have very, brief policies. Some have very comprehensive, including incentives and other things. So I would also say that whatever state governments should now come out with their own policies. Now, I was very happy yesterday only. Rajasthan has come out with his new state policy. So other states should also follow suit. And while they bring out their policy, they should also enlarge it and make it more comprehensive by including how they can help the industry in the light of COVID. How can they
Right.
help the academy?
Right.
Because most of these state governments and not by the central government so much. So it is for the state governments to see that tourism and travel flourishes, the industry flourishes, the academia flourishes, and the government also should be able to give a helping hand and hold the hands of these private sector, academia, industry people. So that should be incorporated to the policy. So incentives, as I had mentioned, tourism infrastructure. In my time, this Swadesh Darshan new scheme had come, and it's a flagship scheme.
Yes, yes.
Within a span
Definitely.
of 2 years, in my time, almost projects were 5,000 crores worth of projects, almost 50 projects of Swadesh Darshan, 100 crores were awarded to the state governments. Now, more important for the state government is to see that all those projects which were started in 2015 or 16 or even 17, they should be benefits and the virtues of that investment, starts coming, to the travelers and for betterment of India tourism. Similarly, there's a scheme called Prashad. There also a lot of projects have been sanctioned. So effort should be made by the state governments to implement those projects as fast as possible and finish them so that those destinations can get the benefit. Another thing which I feel that we put a lot of focus on during that period when I was there is to promote religious tourism through circuits. Now, 3 or 4 circuits that we developed and we also invested money in different projects is number one, Buddhist circuit, another is Ramayana circuit, third is Krishna circuit, and another small basis within Bihar, Jain circuit. Now, what I'm trying to say is, now these religious circuits, once the infrastructure in these areas, as I had mentioned about both Gaya, similarly, you will find that in the Ramayana circuit, if you pick up all the places that we had identified, 7 or 8 places in the Ramayana circuit, where the life of Rama was involved. Now, those do not have any infrastructure. So basically, the idea is, so I have a feeling that the religious tourism and these circuits, which are very strong in USP points, they should also be taken ahead. Another thing, we launched Incredible India campaign once again after a gap of 4 years. In 2016, till for 3-4 years from 2012 to 2016, there was no international branding and promoting for some reason. We started, engaged agency, we had a media plan, and finally we launched a global media and domestic plan, which is still continuing. And India has been able to promote itself in the international sector. Not just that, we also promoting domestic tourism. Normally, Ministry of Tourism was always more towards international traveling and not so much for domestic. We were leaving the domestic promotion only for the states, except J&K. And domestic tourism promotion also is the responsibility of the Ministry of Tourism. and we started, promoting domestic destinations within the domestic market in various publications, in electronic media, and this was also a game changer. And today, as you see, with COVID around, everyone is unanimous about saying that domestic tourism is the first to start, and that will trigger the growth of tourism once again after the COVID goes. Safety and security, I have mentioned. What we did during that time, we brought out a helpline. It's number 1363, is a helpline and information line which is working 24 by 7 in 12 languages. Any traveler from outside, or any Indian traveler also, if they wish to have any information or if they have any problem, they can always call up this number and get the details. So this information system needs to be further consolidated. Tourism investment. We did an investor summit in September 2016. It was a big hit. And many people showed interest in investing in tourism space in India. Now, we don't have too many investors within India. We even looked for FDIs. Think we should advance further in the coming years. Then, in terms of domestic tourism, we launched Bharat Par. Now it has been converted to Dekho Apna Desh and Bharat Dekho campaign, and it is being taken ahead. In the present crisis also, you can see that Government of India, Ministry of Tourism is doing lots of Dekho Apna Desh virtual campaigns, which is a very good step, I must say. Then another area is responsible tourism and sustainable tourism. Now these are two issues which are now so important to the entire world, including India. And people have been talking about responsible tourism, sustainable tourism, but not much, much effort has been made neither by the governments nor by the industry. But now after COVID, everyone has to be responsible. The suppliers have to be responsible, the industry has to be responsible, the local community has to be responsible, and the traveler has to be responsible. And this is what we are hearing all these days: put a mask, put a, keep a safe distance. Now, what is all? This is nothing but when you travel like a responsible traveler. Then on the medical tourism front also, we did something and created a medical tourism board. That also needs to be addressed because not much effort is, or maybe not much activation is being seen in the space of medical tourism, which is very important. Another thing in the international space we did was to sign MOUs with many countries, basically bilateral relations on the tourism side. And it did bring good results. We signed MOUs with Sri Lanka and all the neighboring countries and other places also, with the result that the bilateral tourism between the two countries could increase, and it showed very positive results. And then finally, I would like to say that we also did a lot for skilling, and in the sense that there is a massive gap between the requirements of talent and skill on one hand for the industry and the supply. Even the quality of supply or the quality of talent and skill people that we have may not match the world class and world quality. So we saw that the IHMs, FCIs, they are all in government space. Either the state institutes are there or the central institutes are there. Few private sector institutes were there. So that was the time, Professor Sahu, that the government was very strict on giving licenses to private sector. Yeah. So I said, no, if we have to bridge the gap, you have to open it to the private sector. So that is another thing which I tried to do. And now I believe there are many institutions which are coming up in the private sector, and that is something very important. So these are some of the initiatives which need to be advanced, which need to be taken forward. Some are being taken forward and some are often in the process. So this is what I feel about your question.
Sir, what do you like to suggest as the COVID is totally, harassing people? what do you like to suggest for our future generations, upcoming staffs, new students in tourism and hospitality sector? As COVID is already here, it is not been vanished. It has been sustained from last 5 6 months, and huge crisis, revenue wise, manpower wise, health wise. Our country suffered a lot.
Well, yes, this is Professor Saud. This is a very interesting question, and very much concerned with your students also. And I had the privilege of addressing, in many webinars dealing with the students. And the question answer session also that we had, these are the lurking fears. In fact, there was a national talent competition also organized by PhD Chamber, and I was one of the jury members. Now, let me tell the students, not just of your institution, but all over, whoever is listening to my talk. See, first of all, tourism is a very interesting sector. It gives you rich exposure. Uh, you tend to meet people. And when you meet people, you become confident, you become smart. And today is the age of being smart. You have smartphones, you need to have smart people also, smart workers. So tourism is one area which makes you smart from all angles. Then tourism is one industry or sector which is so diversified, both from job point of view. You can pick up any segment within the tourism and travel sector as per your choice, as per the scope, as per the availability of jobs. You have airlines, you have hospitality, you have transport, you have tour operation, you have travel trade, you have destination management companies, you have travel agents, you have travel media, you have guiding, you have food and beverages, you have restaurants, you have e-food suppliers these days, e-commerce, you have amusement and entertainment. So all these areas you don't find in an industry. If you go to a mining industry, you will only find that only mining is done, mining of gold, mining of silver, mining of zinc. But here, I'm just giving an example. So the variety and diversity that you have within the tourism sector is huge. I'm not talking
Right.
of the employment generation and all, of course, goes well with it, but I'm directly addressing the students that look how interesting the whole thing is. And then you have the scope to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
You can see all these Zomatos and Swiggies and all the applications, Make My Trip, online travel, agencies, OTAs. They are all thriving basically on the digital technology. So they were all entrepreneurs. They were all startups, which have become big companies. So you have another scope, not just to be employed in some big organization. You can start your own work. You can start applications based on e-tourism. You have virtual reality. You have artificial intelligence. You have career in teaching within tourism. Professor Sahu is also doing the same thing. So what I'm trying to say is very interesting sector. So that should be the first attraction to the students. Now, the second thing is that travel and tourism will never stop. See, travel is a basic human instinct. You cannot take it away. And of course, freedom of movement is also a constitutional right. So your instinct and your rights, nobody can stop. It's unstoppable. Travel and tourism will happen. Now, what has happened during COVID? It's only because there is a restriction, there is a lockdown, and there is so much of fear across, that if you come out of your home, something will happen to you. Now, this fear psychosis, I mean, a fear created in the environment may have different effects on different people. I may get more fearful, Professor Sau may get less fearful, or vice versa. But the basic level of fear remains the same. So the moment the lockdown gets finished totally, of course, depending upon the overall situation and the government's policies, everything will start afresh. The
Yes,
only
sir. Because what I
problem that
found
will, yeah,
during this pandemic, sir, when the lockdown is taken place, we will not deduct our employee salary. We will provide them accommodation. We will provide them foods. We'll start our virtual classes simultaneously. We are now totally free of accommodation system. We are going to promote total non-chargeable, free of cost accommodation for students. Their
Very
practical
good.
fees we are not going to charge. We are not going to charge the practical fees. As we are not conducting practical, we are only on virtual lecture. What we did is we are now going to set our own studio from where in 4K quality food craft workshops we are going to start. So to nurture their interest again, so we are also promoting this. We are totally free our hostel, so that I thought their future is going to be secure. My staff future is going to be secure. Their job is going to be secure. So my management, I really respect to my management. They somehow appraise that we just don't want to deduct our employee salary during that period. Again, we are also welcoming new staffs. We have around 7 new assistant professors who have been appointed. One of the people from Princess Cruise Line from USA, having more than 9 year, 10 year of experience. They lose their job. They went back to India. So they applied. Then I suggest my managing director, sir, we have to go for it. So now, do you like to take this risk? During this pandemic, we have totally revenue out. So what to do? No, I'll assure you, if these personnels are going to come to our organization during this time, I'll give you the remarkable output. So I hope the things has to be nourished. Whenever people are going to nurture their career along with us, we have to take care of them as well, in terms of student
No,
as well as my fellow colleagues.
I'm so happy, Professor Sahu, that with this kind of facilitation, if it is being done by an organization like yours, there is all the more reason why the students and young professionals should not be worried about. And let me again assure you, you see, COVID is an issue, is a problem, it's a global problem.
Mm.
All the sectors have been affected. There was a question once, in one of the webinars. So should I go shift from tourism to any other sector? So my reply was, which sector is good at the moment? Every sector, if you go into the depth of each, you will find that one is worse than the other. So there is nothing to worry. It's a turmoil for about a year. The vaccine, once it comes in phases, the first thing that will go away is the fear.
Yeah.
So it is fear, it is basically fear which is holding back people from going, which is holding back the government also
Mm.
to tell the people that you should come out.
Mm.
So it is a transition phase. To my mind, the worst is over.
Mm.
Economy has opened. India has opened. The government has taken such a bold step that despite COVID cases rising, it has opened the economy. While the COVID cases are rising, the economy is opening more and more. Now this shows that economy has become a predominant factor today than the fear of the COVID. So which means that once the economy goes up, the travel and tourism will also go up. Jobs are not going to go anywhere. It's just a matter of few additional months. You just feel as if there was a bad patch of 1 year, and then once that bad patch is over, things will become more and more normal, because things were normal. It's only because of the lockdown that everything stopped. Once the lockdown gets over, everything will start. People are waiting in the wings. People are revengeful of going on, tours and traveling. There are bookings done. I mean, not just in India, outside also. Heavy bookings have been done in the next 4, 5, 6 months. Now, all this augurs very well, my dear students, and you should not bother much about it. You should concentrate on your studies. The time that you have, the extra time that you are having these days, because of the lockdown, because of your non-movement, you should increase your knowledge. You should improve your skills. You should have hands-on learning. You should try to, increase your knowledge about tourism, increase your digital technology expertise, do something to develop and to grow. Don't just sit idle. And whenever your when your college opens, you must either virtually or physically, as and when it is open, you must compensate. See, a human being is extremely adjustable, accommodating.
Hmm.
Once when the crisis comes, you are able to adjust to the crisis. When the crisis goes away, you are able to compensate for all that you have lost. And you will see that another few months and COVID and the entire phase will be history. People will just forget about it. It will become just like any other illnesses, that are thriving, all over in the country, whether it is AIDS, whether it is swine flu, whether it is all these things. When they came, they created a similar terror. Of course, COVID-19 has been the worst because it has affected globally. But the point is that gradually this will also become the list of one of the illnesses, and everyone will have to be very careful about not having it. But in terms of economy, once the vaccine comes, things will become rather better than what it was during pre-COVID times.
Right. Well said, sir. Sir, what are the key factors you thought need to be practiced as a management or as an administrator in hospitality sector for fight with this kind of flu attack to COVID?
Yeah. Professor Sahu, after a great wait, long
Hmm.
wait, hospitality sector has been opened in India.
Right.
And it was one of the last ones to be opened, and there were reasons. Now that the hospitality sectors, hotels have been reopened, there are two issues. One issue is, as we had mentioned, that some of them are having liquidity crunch. They
Right.
have problems with working capital.
Hmm.
Now that I'm not going into that. Of course, the government, the banks, they must provide loans, they must provide working capital on easy interest basis or whatever. That kind of support is required from the government or government-owned banking institutions, that apart. But coming to the hotel itself, they have to bring in certain reforms
Hmm.
and see that their house is in order.
Right.
It will be it will be useful in two ways. Number one, you have to dispel the fear of your guests, the
Right.
potential guests,
Well said,
and
sir.
this is where the real competition will come, Professor Sahu, in the sense that you may have a five-star hotel, in the downtown area, and right across the road you may have a three-star hotel. But if a three-star hotel is able to prove before the consumers and guests that we are safer with about 20-25 rooms rather than that 500 room five-star hotel right across the road, people will these days come to you and not to the five-star.
Right.
Now this is the effect of COVID. It has brought an equalizer.
Right.
Normally, a five-star will never compete with three-star,
Hmm.
obviously.
Hmm.
But the thing is that with fear of health, with safety, what is important is, as you say, small is beautiful. The small is maybe able to provide better safety and of health rather than the big one.
Hmm.
So today the race is how you can over, you know, outsmart another hotel in terms of competition by bringing in better health safety measures. I will not mind in staying in a less luxurious accommodation if I am 100% sure that it is. Now, this calls for how do you call something as a safe? So, the need for certification, health certification is very important. And I would rather call upon the Ministry of Tourism that you must develop some kind of process or mechanism by which you are able to certify a particular hotel, especially those ones which are classified under the classification of Ministry of Tourism. You could do it by your own officials. You could do it by a combined team. You can do it by a third party whom you have authorized. Now, some of the organizations like WTPC has appointed one ATTOI organization based in Kerala. They will do the certification of a particular hotel. Yes, this is health certified. So anyone, first of all, the hotel itself will say we are certified. That means we are safe. Now that kind of, just like five-star means, oh, once you are going to five-star, you know what all will be there. Similarly, if a health certified is just like an ISI mark, it's just like an FSSAI mark on the food products. That kind of mark, trademark or a certification mark will go a long way to bring in confidence of the people towards the fear of traveling and fear of staying in the hotels. Now that is something very important. Then thirdly, all the SOPs guidelines which have been framed by the ministry, by the government, all these days have to be adhered 100%. There cannot be any laxity whatsoever. Number one. Number two, it is not just that you should limit yourself to those SOPs and guidelines. Why can't you have something more than that?
Right.
Now, for luggage screening, you have this UV technology, ultraviolet technology. Some hotels can, big hotels especially can have it. Some hotels, I have also started having robots. In international hotels, you find robots doing in-room dining, into the rooms.
Right.
Then your online services, even your restaurants, when you can have, instead of having a normal menu card on the restaurant within the hotel, you could have something like a blackboard menu, like you find in European countries with chalk written that today's, menu is like this. Or you may do it online on their smartphones. All these actions need to be taken. Then I would also like to mention, especially your students, they should read the instructions and the guidelines which have been issued by the Ministry of Tourism for hospitality units. And it contains all do's and don'ts which have to be done in terms of front offices, the lounges, the F&B, the banquet, how the ACs should run, how the room should be kept, what should be the in-room dining process, how should the kitchen be kept, what are the other health related, what should the staff do, what is the staff training, what are the do's and don'ts for the guests, the toilet management, restaurant management, all these things have been mentioned there, and they should go through them while they are still, studying, that these are the new normal requirements. When you join or your student joins a hospitality unit now, he has to be abreast with all this along with digital technology. So these are some of the points, Professor Sahu, that people in the hospitality sector or those who are going to join the hospitality sector have to undergo, have to take care of these aspects. And accordingly, the hospitality unit has to promote themselves in such a manner. Today, if you see some of the airlines, they are mentioning that we will do the rapid antigen test in 10 minutes and give the security tag to the passenger who is boarding. Now, if you and I have this feeling that this airline is making only those passengers enter inside, not just on the basis of thermal scanning, but on the basis of actual test, which will just take about 10 minutes,
Right.
then only they will allow him to board. How much confidence you will have to travel?
Right.
So, the kind of fear, how do you alleviate the fear? These are some of the methods, technology, and the kind of promotion that you do and reach out to the people that I am safer than the other. These things, I think, will go a long way to bring the hospitality sector back in action.
Right. Sir, as you are a law student, you have a long term having knowledge about law, how it enhance your administrative capabilities. Means as you always love to during your tenure also we found you at IITM Bhubaneswar, we found you at Gadwal University, we found you at Pondicherry University, in several international university as well. So how do you think the law and your study on law and it has enhanced your administrative capability as an IES officer, as a level of secretary? It is really required law, I can understand, but you are not into the administrative only. If I nurture your brief CV, I found you have an interest on writing, you have an interest on deliberating, you have an interest to narrate the new ideas, mapping the new goals. So how do you manage things by the help of your law skill? And do you think that it has been developed and enhanced your
Yeah,
administrative
I
capabilities? Yes.
Professor Sahu, before I joined the IAS, I was a management student. I did MBA from University of Delhi, Faculty of Management Studies. And I found that in administration, the tools and techniques of management which I learned, they were very helpful.
Hmm.
And secondly, when during the course of my career in IAS, we generally handle the laws. We implement, laws. You have the criminal procedure code. We take action under that. We take action under, the CPC. We sit in the courts. We have Essential Commodity Act. We also work, as a judicial magistrate during our training. Operate IPC as well. And likewise, there are all the acts and laws which are prevailing in India. District magistrate or collector or SDM or in the capacity of secretary in the state, you are you are dealing with the law. Now, incidentally, since I had not done law during my career or during before that, it was always in my mind that I must take. And when I joined the Election Commission of India in Delhi in 2009, now Election Commission of India is nothing but administering law and administering elections. So there I realized that the knowledge of law is going to be very important, not just for the
Right.
election commission working, but also for my future. And I also thought that maybe at some point of time after my superannuation, I can always take up the legal profession as well, which I'm doing even now to a very small extent. I've started a law firm also. Now, that apart, but the point basically is that yes, law helps you in day to day life also. In fact, it is imperative that everyone should know the law. You must have heard of the maxim that ignorance of law is no excuse. So, if you are ignorant of law, then you can face any problem. So from that angle, it motivated me to do the law. And of course, as you have rightly mentioned, see, every achievement that you get needs efforts. You have to work hard. When I was in the Election Commission of India, I used to go for 3-4 hours in the evening, every evening to join the classes. And even 1 or 2 semesters were left when I became Secretary to Government of India. And there also I tried to take some time out to go to the classes and to complete my law. And finally in 2016 I could do it. So basically, how you manage time. You said, how can you do so many things? You must love your work.
Right.
You must enjoy what you do. If you take studies as a problem, if you take teaching as a problem, if I take my job as a problem, sitting as secretary tourism, so many pressures, so many pulls as a problem, then I will not be able to deliver and will not make myself happy. So I must make it, the environment should be such that I enjoy my job. So whatever you do, if you enjoy that, you will keep doing lot many things as you have mentioned for me. This is what I think I have learned and I have applied and I am quite happy about it.
Rightly said, sir. Really, during as a secretary, having interest to learn new things, this is something. Visualize that a successful person cannot be nurtured as a successful person, but they have to keep having the courage of learning what you did during your tenure as well. Sir, it is not in the list. I just wanted to take your vision. Something that you have been in 1982 Rajasthan batch cadre, Indian Administrative Service Officer. When you went to Dehradun in IAS Academy, you delivered to the new IAS of India. Do you found any changes in new people who all are going to serve as a commissioner, who all are going to serve as a joint secretary or district magistrate in various portfolios?
No, I have been going to IAS Academy even as a resource person,
Yes.
and so am I going to other universities also, central universities. Now, see, there is hardly any difference when we go to the IS Academy and taking the session with
Yes.
the new recruits, the new IS recruit,
Yes.
which we also used to be 38 years ago.
Right.
So it is just the same. The students, the mentality of the students is just the same, except that the people who have joined the IS, they are made to understand that you are going to take up very important and responsible positions.
Right.
Now that inculcation has to be made according to the requirements which are. So a person joining the IAS or maybe studying or maybe attending classes and while he's staying in the IAS academy, he knows very well that within 2 years time he will be the head of the subdivision. Within 5 years he will be the collector. So he sees himself in that position, and it
Right.
is the academy which makes him see, even if he is not able to see, because they have just given examination on the basis of their knowledge. They have not learned anything about administration. So same thing when you go to Pondicherry University or Banaras Hindu University or Garhwal University, basically the students' mentality, psychology is just the same.
Yeah.
It's just that when I go to the tourism industry or tourism university or a faculty, then my point is how to motivate them, how to go ahead with whatever the path that they are taking. You cannot compare it with any other. If you had become administrator, you would have done something. Oh, they have already they are they have chosen tourism and hospitality, so you have to touch upon their career path only in that particular industry. So whatever area you have picked up, whatever line you have picked up, whether it is tourism, whether it is administration, whether it is something else, you have to nurture yourself. You have to adapt yourself. You have to acclimatize and sensitize yourself to that particular career, and accordingly acquire knowledge, acquire personality also. Like many a times you get this messages from some people that administrators, they don't meet people. It is not that they don't want to meet people. If a collector has to meet his entire, I was collector of Jaipur, which had a population of 30-35 lakhs. Now, obviously, even if I had remained for 10 years, I would not be able to meet everyone. So my point basically is that their job requires a different kind of working, different from, some other industry. And that kind of sensitization comes, during the academy, and we are made to understand that this is how you have to behave when you go to the district, when you go to the state government, when you go to the ministry, and accordingly we adapt ourselves. And this is how what is called as a culture of the industry. You have an administrative culture. All IS officers, all bureaucrats who enter into the ministry, they will be following the same kind of culture, which their seniors have been following. And this is how it passes from generation to generation. So
Right.
basically, I have a feeling that whichever institution you go to, there are bright people everywhere. Whoever appears in the IAS, 100, 200 people get into that, but it does not mean that whoever has not appeared are not bright. They have
Right.
not towed that line, they have not followed that line. It does not mean that they are not intelligent, they are not bright, and they will not do good in career. Today you have
Right.
technology area, how scientists have been doing excellent work. I mean, you can see how we have done in space technology, how we have done in medical technology. They are all bright people everywhere. And everyone cannot be administrator. You have to have people in tourism, you have to have people in space, in technology, in other areas. Then only a nation can grow up.
Sir, rightly said, sir. All the questions have been answered, I found. Now we are in a second phase of our one-to-one conversation. I found it is known as rapid fire round. And I'll ask you one question and give you at least 3 to 4 options. And you have to choose only one.
Okay.
Sir, which position is more attractive for your ideology? IS, Secretary of Ministry of Tourism, lawyer, consultant.
You see, obviously the IAS, for the reason that it is obviously, because attractive, because it is this service which has led me to acquire knowledge, to acquire experience, which is rarely available in other services.
Services,
And
okay.
this is what brought me as Secretary Tourism. This is what brought me in the Election Commission, and the experience and knowledge that I gained during my 35 years of IAS I'm using it as a consultant. So basically वो IAS जननी तो IAS है, तो मैं सबसे ज़्यादा attracted.
Sure, sure. Sir, how do you visualize food industry in coming days? Nutrition oriented, decorum oriented, taste oriented, or hygiene oriented?
Uh, well, first of all, the food industry is a very promising sector. I would say a sunrise sector. Again, along with food processing as well.
Right.
Now, simultaneously, what has happened in Indian context is that the consumer awareness has gone up. So the safety, the hygiene, and the health aspect that has become foremost.
Right.
And today also, if you see the packaging, all the packaging, the FSSAI, as I had mentioned, marking. Earlier, it used to be egg mark in some cases. Now, all these have become more. In previous days, you never bothered about how many calories each, that food packet has, whether it is a Maggi noodles or something else. But today, even the youngsters are very conscious about this particular. So I have a feeling that this health consciousness of the consumers is
Right.
going to improve the hygiene related food industry much
Right.
more. And it is not that there is a separate hygiene related industry, it's just that whatever food industry and food processing industry is already there, they will have to sensitize themselves to the hygienic requirements, to the health requirements.
Right.
Suppose, for example, in noodles, they used to put, one of the ingredients, chemicals, Ajinomoto. Now, people have realized that this Ajinomoto creates problems, long-term problems. So for those manufacturers who used to put Ajinomoto, they should stop putting it and make it safer. Otherwise, they have this fear, or they should have this fear, that if they don't do it and they don't make it safe, then they will be out of the market. Now, these are the concerns which would sort of prosper the industry within the food sector related to the safety, health safety, and hygiene. And in the light of COVID, all the more. All said and done, let us not forget that during this COVID crisis, even you and the families, everyone is very conscious about what he should eat or what he should not eat. And that's because they don't want to fall ill during this time. Because if they fall ill, they will have bigger problems than what they would have when the COVID was not there. So that health consciousness,
Right.
see, COVID has given certain lessons also. This is one of the lessons. Be hygienic, be healthy, have more and more immunity. So it is a game of immunity. Everyone has got this name. Immunity was never heard among masses. But today, everyone in the TV is talking about immunity. People have realized that if you have immunity, whatever may be the disease, it will be difficult for that particular virus to invade your system and create problems.
Sir. Sir, which of the following you like mostly? To act as a father, to act as an administrator, to act as a son, to act as a lawyer?
You see, when I was in service, I mean, I had to play all the roles together.
Uh-huh.
You are father at the same time, you are going to office, you are administrator there. When you meet your child, or when you meet your parents, you are like a son. Now, Professor Sahu, I would like to tell you a very interesting thing. Now, a human being lives in three ego states. It is called as transactional analysis. One is the child state, one is the adult state, and one is in parent state.
Right.
So if somebody has to be in all the three stages, then I can say for myself that if I want to be in the parent ego state, I would love to be a father.
Right.
If I want to be in the adult ego state, I would like to be an administrator because serious things are talked.
Right.
And if I want to be in the child ego state, I would like to go to my mother or my father and sit with them and discuss and raise my issues. So the three ego states in human being, they are prevalent at all points of time. So I would say all the three roles have been very interesting. Being a father and being a son, of course, it has more to do with your personal, emotions. But being an administrator is something which I think needs to be instilled in all the bureaucrats, who may get into the service, but they should also prove to be good administrator.
Right.
So if you play all the three roles, you should play with all commitments that is attributed to you, and then only I think you could be a successful father, successful son, and of course a successful administrator.
Rightly said, sir. Rightly said. As you have been visited various institutions, I'm on nation-wise, you have so much of this. As you are election commissioner, as you have been appointed the important place of India, like collector of Jaipur. I have been served as a secretary to Ministry of Culture. You have been served by the Ministry of Tourism. I have been a governing council vice chairman to Indian Institute of Traveling and Tourism chairman, National Council Hotel Management and Catering Technology. Sir, which of the part of India and which of the institution you found have a globalized vision to develop the future of India? IS Academy, Garhwal University, University of Pondicherry, IIT team.
Professor Sahu, is an interesting question, difficult to answer. But let me tell you, since I must be more specific, you see, IS Academy, of course, is a premier institution,
Hmm.
and also because, in terms of its importance,
Right.
in terms of, like when you come out of the IS Academy, you are, you are a person who would influence the lives of a large number of people. Now,
Right.
this is what is the
It is directly
if you come
affecting to the society.
to society and majority, large number of people. You see, when we become collectors and district magistrate and remain for almost 5, 6, 7 years, now imagine there is only one person whom everyone looks at, and he is controlling the entire district and the lives of almost 30, 40, 50 lakhs people. There, if there is a flood, then he has to look after. If there is a disease, he has to look after. If there is a law and order, then he has to protect them. Now, this kind of job is only in the IS Academy. So it is more important. It has better infrastructure also. It has curriculum, more exposure. So I would say that in terms of the I would say the takeaways. If somebody is coming out with the IS Academy, he is better exposed to deal with the world and to be as an administrator and to be successful in all spheres of life. Now, notwithstanding this, I'm not comparing. When you go to Garhwal, when you go to IITTM, Pondicherry, now these are also national universities. They are also having a globalized view because beyond the national level, you have to go to the international. So I have seen in many institutions, the faculty members have been sent abroad to various institutions. Many people, the faculty from other countries, they are coming into the department, addressing the students, addressing the faculty. So this kind of mutual, the arrangement of sharing of knowledge, sharing of best practices exists in these national universities also. But if you come down to a university or an institution which is locally based, now the real challenge is with them that while it is important for every student to acquire the best that is existing in the world, and with globalization, there is no reason, with internet, there is no reason why a student of your college cannot acquire something, which is existing in one of the best hotels, in the Western nations. They can go to the YouTube, they can see for themselves. You don't need a faculty member who may have gone there. So now the avenues are so many. So globalized view is not a difficult thing. The only thing is the management, the institution should have a commitment. It should have in the curriculum, it should have on the top priority list to expose everyone to the global scenario as well. Because today, when anything happens, especially in tourism and travel sector, it goes like a wildfire. If something is practiced in Paris, next day you will find something happening in Bombay as well. Now, whoever does faster, so everyone has to learn from each other. It's not that we have learned from European countries only. It is their countries also may learn lots of things from India. So this kind of cross fertilization of ideas, meeting of people, meeting of faculties, students going to some, getting attachments, hands-on training, going to another institution, going to, places abroad. Now, all these things, they are intermingling of ideas, and this is how the globalized view will come in. So in terms of, I would say, I come back to these four institutions I've mentioned, IS Academy is a different ball game altogether. And of course, the rest of them, IITTM Gwalior is a national institution, it's a national academic institution rather, it has a global vision. Similarly, and I've seen, in fact, as the chairman of the NCHMCT, we used to send faculty members of various IHMs and IITTMs to an institution in France, which is known to be, very good
Yes, I
in
know.
food and science. So all these, this cross fertilization, their faculty members coming here to teach, our people going there to teach, maybe to smaller countries, we can also go, SARC nations, Southeast Asian nations, Asian nations. So this kind of, I think, churning of ideas and sharing of knowledge and sharing of best practices must go on, whether it's a small institution or whether it's a big institution.
Sir, as we have concluded our second round, and I found this rapid fire round, it become an full of basket of knowledge.
Thank you.
This round will be going to known as the elaborate the word round, and in this round I will ask some single words, and sir you have to elaborate it in 30 seconds. Uh, the first word is a culture.
Okay. Culture, India is incredible because of its rich cultural heritage. And this is one of the very important, unique selling propositions of India tourism. It is our strength, and therefore, whenever we showcase India, we showcase it as a land of eternal heritage and culture.
Right. Sir, guest.
Well, guest is God. Atiti Devo Bhava, we know very well. In fact, I would say that the tourism starts with a guest. We call him a traveler. We may call him as a tourist. We may call him a visitor. But in true sense, he is a guest. And why? Because when he comes out of his home, then only he becomes a tourist or a traveler or a visitor. And when he goes somewhere, there is some host. If he's going to an amusement park, there is a host. The host is the organizer. When he's going to a foreign country, a destination, that country is the host. So whenever he goes as a tourist, he's actually a guest to a host. So guest and tourism, they are very closely and
Interrelated.
intricately related.
Yes. Sir, Mr. Vinod Jutsi.
This is the name which my parents have given me. And as for the world has to tell what strikes them when they hear my name.
That's why I do this dare, because everywhere people can thinking about all other things. Some they have some kind of ideology for their own name. That I found. My father is no more, but he has some kind of ideology always. When I found after his retirement, I found 700 rupees in GPF book. Why it is happening like that? Because he said, whatever you wanted to invest, don't invest in property, don't invest in land, don't invest in gold. invest things in knowledge, it will not going to stolen by anyone else. So
Great.
this kind of ideology we are nurturing. So always he is giving importance to nurture the name of the person. So it has some kind of identification mark always. So Ram, I mean Prabhu Maryada Purushottam Sri Ram.
Well, as a person, when you hear about the word Shri Ram, it obviously means, you know, a person who is an ideal person, anyone who would like to be like him. Like we always had in our mind during our childhood, who is your ideal person, ideal hero. So for Indians, he's like an ideal hero. And as a tourism hand, when I see this name, I think of the Ramayana circuit and I see a lot many possibilities and scope to promote Ramayana circuit within India, domestic tourism, of course, and also some of the countries which are around us. I can cite one small example. In one of the meetings with Sri Lanka Security Tourism, we had a meeting with them in Colombo. Now, at the end of the meeting, we decided as a joint communique that Sri Lankans have not seen the first half of the Ramayana story, and Indians have not seen the second half of Ramayana story. So let us engage with each other. Let us motivate Indians to come to Sri Lanka to see the second stage or second phase, and we in India will motivate Indians to go to Sri Lanka to see the second phase. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that from tourism angle, since we are focusing on tourism at this point of time, this religious tourism as such is again one of the USPs of India, and among them the Ramayana, Buddhist, Krishna circuits which have been made by the Ministry of Tourism as a policy, they need to be explored, they need to be promoted, and that will also attract the foreign travelers because spirituality, religion, you cannot compare India with any country because India is the leader in religious and spiritual tourism, which includes yoga and which includes all kinds of other related activities, including wellness activities. So this is one aspect which I see when I see this name.
Sir, Delhi.
Delhi, the heart of India, and my alma mater city. Normally, alma mater are institutions, colleges where you have studied. Alma mater because when I did my MBA from Delhi University, it was then that I had decided that I will take the IS exam. It was in Delhi that while I was working in Delhi that I studied here. And it is not just because I'm saying that Delhi was lucky and so I'm mentioning all this because Delhi provided that environment which is very conducive to anyone who is wanting to appear in competitive exams, particularly the IAS. You have large number of libraries. I remember having not left any library in Delhi to search for inputs for the examination. And I had become a member, or maybe I used the cards of some people who were known to me to get books from the libraries. So Delhi has been that way very useful for me.
Useful. Yeah.
I don't want to use lucky, but very useful because it helps me to prepare and be more competitive in getting into the service.
Sir, last word is COVID-19. I
COVID-19, of course, is
intentionally, sir,
scary.
I intentionally put this word at end because it has to be ended soon.
Yeah. So COVID-19 is scary to first when you listen, but let me also tell everyone it was scary when it started. Now, with 5 months down the line, people have realized its limitations, and also people have realized that there are ways to overcome. So this has given a great sense of confidence and solace. But yes, it has traumatized the whole world. It has been an unprecedented shock to the entire humanity. I would say it's a global attack on life and livelihood. But as I had mentioned, it's in the transition phase. The worst is over. The worst is behind us. We have to look forward. We have overcome many such events before also. I mean, it's only when you face a situation then you realize that this was worse than the before, worse than the previous one. So today we are facing the crisis of COVID, but I still say sitting at home and enjoying your family and doing whatever you wish to do is not so much of a pain as getting the illness. As they say, it is better to stay home than in the ICU. It is better to wear a mask rather than wear a ventilator. So from that angle, if you have followed the safety guidelines, the life has not become a big problem in leading the life. That is why the entire world has lived very nicely in the last 5 months, the whole global community. Of course, those who could catch it, they have suffered. People have suffered economically, which I had mentioned that with time, with lockdown opening, things will normalize. So these dangers, they come, the tough times come in our lives. खराब समय सबके साथ में आता है. प्रॉब्लम है कि ये खराब समय सभी के साथ एक साथ आया. लेकिन एक चीज़ भी और भी है कि सभी के साथ एक साथ जब आया तो सब एकजुट भी हो गए, एकता बनी, and everyone got together to solve that problem, not just within the country but globally. We are exchanging notes with each other. We will certainly exchange vaccines also with each other, as you can see. So it has brought the whole world closer with this kind of pandemic. But of course, one would not wish this pandemic to come again to teach us better lessons. But we will certainly overcome, and COVID-19 will no longer remain as scary as it looked in February, March in another few months' time. This is what I feel when I hear the word COVID-19.
Uh, Sir, as we are at the end of the conversation, this is my time. What I really learned from it. It definitely, when it is going to be premiered on social media, people are going to get something like comprehensive type of skill, which is, I can say, timely skill, and it will definitely, sir, it will enhancing the remarkable interest of our students. I will not say thanks, because if I say thanks, it has been going to be away. As you narrated, sir, Ramayana half chapter is already there in Sri Lanka. I had an primary discussion with Professor Suranga from University of Colombo. We had a brief discussion regarding this. We are going to have some kind of collaboration that, along with some Indian fellow colleagues of academicians and all some students from NCHNCT, we are planned a international type of 6 or 7 day workshop at University of Colombo, so that people can also able to stay there for 6 to 7 days. They can nourish the things, they can understand the heritage. Accordingly, that they can give that knowledge to Indian entrepreneur. And that is the first thing. And second, sir, we are going to start the Indo-Africa tourism corridor. So it is very soon I'm going to start this things. And the things is, sir, people are here to nurture the new landmark. When I communicate with you, you are not nurtured. You have already achieved all the things. Whatever people can dream in, you are already achieved. As you rightly said, that at the same time, when you are becoming an IAS, when becoming an administrator, you have to be love each and every position. You have to be act as a father, you have to be act as a son, you have to be act as a friend, you have to be act as a administrator. That different vice versa mindset and this kind of handling capability, decisive personality, I really, sir, feel honored to to gather some daringness on my mind to invite you to this platform. Really, sir, thanks a lot again. On behalf of my fellow colleagues, on behalf of my college group, I would like to give an hearty invitation from our side, because every year on January month, we are actually promoting indigenous food products. Last year, in this year, in January 31st, we are promoting Odia Food Festival in Gujarat. I purchased some Sambalpuri sarees from Odisha. I rehearsed some kind of Sambalpuri dance, indigenous dance. I would like to promote the Avoda, Dalma, and some kind of Jagannath cuisine foods. And it has been putting a remarkable mark. I have been invited people from NCHN city also. So what I found in India, as you very correctly narrated, that in India you cannot thematically promote our tourism product, because it has various multi-transdisciplinary vice versa. Somewhere, if you went to Puri, it has a beach tourism. If you went to Puri city, that is a religious tourism destination. If you went to Pondicherry, they have a different culture. If we went to Gujarat, they have a different culture. Rajasthan is having known for the exemplar tourism destination of throughout India. So yes, definitely we have to find out how correctly we can in one time we can gather that knowledge. At least we can go for indigenous tourism for Indians. Later on, when it will open, definitely the industry will give so much of opportunity for our students. Thank you again, sir. Good.
Thank you, Professor Sahu. Let me also thank your institution, your management, and particularly you for an excellent talk that we had. I really enjoyed it. Let me tell you, the best part is that the when the students are able to hear this talk show or see the talk show, I'm sure that it will certainly motivate them. So my best wishes to you and blessings to all your students of your institution, and thank you very much.
Thank you.